Can you imagine a person whose name alone brings applause? Someone thousands, even millions of people see as their hero. Maybe he's a powerful businessman. Maybe the president of a country. Maybe a world-famous Hollywood star. A face that stands confidently on stage, delivering speeches with authority, quoting inspiration, and being recognized by the world as successful. But then one day, you find out that the very same person used to visit a place where innocent girls had their lives shattered, where underage girls were exploited. And maybe it wasn't just that he saw it happening. Maybe he was part of it himself. And what's the most terrifying part? This is not fiction. This is not the plot of a Netflix series. This is a real story, one that raises serious questions about our society today. One man, whose name is Jeffrey Epstein, and alongside him, names you never would have imagined being connected to a story like this. The Epstein files are not just a scandal. They are a mirror that shows the true face of power, money, and privilege. They reveal how the most powerful people in the world, while staying within the system, were able to hide some of the darkest truths for years. In this video, we are not just going to list names. We will try to understand how Epstein's network worked, who stayed close to him, and how the truth was buried for so long. This story is uncomfortable. This story can make you angry. And maybe this story will change the way you see the world forever. So if you're ready to face the truth, if you want to understand the darkness hidden behind glamorous headlines, watch this video till the very end.
Would you raise your hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. Would you please state your full name?
I'm Jeffrey Edward Epstein, and my residence address is 6100 Red Hook Boulevard in Virgin Islands.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes.
Jeffrey Epstein, the millionaire financier whose crimes were beyond horrific. He built a massive sex trafficking network that trapped more than 100 vulnerable girls and young women. His actions were devastating. Victims have described being terrified, thinking they might not survive being alone with him. He manipulated and abused them in ways that still shock people today. I've gone through the victim testimonies, the court documents, the investigations, and now the latest unsealed files that name his powerful connections. Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born on January 20th, 1953, in Brooklyn, New York, to Pauline and Seymour Epstein. His father worked for the New York City Parks Department as a groundskeeper. His mother was a school aide. The family was working-class Jewish, living in Seagate, a gated community at the tip of Coney Island. Epstein was the older of two sons. His brother Mark is still alive and has been involved in some post-death legal matters. From a young age, Epstein was bright. He skipped 2 grades and graduated Lafayette High School at 16. He attended Cooper Union for physics, but dropped out in 1971 without a degree. He then enrolled at New York University's Courant Institute, but left in 1974, again without graduating. Despite no college degree, he landed a teaching job at the prestigious Dalton School in Manhattan in 1974. Teaching math and physics to high school students. How did a college dropout get hired at one of New York's elite private schools? The answer is, one of his students was the son of Alan Greenberg, then CEO of Bear Stearns Investment Bank. Epstein tutored the boy, impressed Greenberg, and in 1976, at age 23, Epstein was hired at Bear Stearns as a junior assistant to a floor trader. He rose quickly. By 1980, he was a limited partner specializing in options trading and tax strategies for wealthy clients. But his time at Bear Stearns ended abruptly in 1981. Epstein left amid rumors of insider trading and lending money to clients from the firm's account, violations that could have led to charges, but he was never prosecuted. Instead, he founded Intercontinental Assets Group Incorporated, a firm that recovered stolen money for clients. Some reports suggest his clients included arms dealers and shady international figures, though details are scarce. In 1987, Epstein joined Towers Financial Corporation, a debt collection agency run by Stephen Hoffenberg. Towers was a massive Ponzi scheme. Hoffenberg was later convicted in 1995 and sentenced to 20 years. He claimed Epstein was the architect of the fraud, saying Epstein handled offshore accounts and money laundering. Epstein left before the collapse and was never charged. Hoffenberg, from prison, repeatedly said Epstein got away with it. By the late 1980s, Epstein was positioning himself as a money manager for the ultra-wealthy peoples. His biggest client was Les Wexner, founder of L Brands. In 1991, Wexner gave Epstein power of attorney over his finances. Unprecedented trust. Epstein managed Wexner's billions, bought properties in his name, and even acquired Wexner's Manhattan mansion for $13.2 million, later transferred to Epstein for $0 in some reports. Wexner later said Epstein misappropriated $46 million, but no charges were filed. The recent unsealed documents from court cases have brought out names tied to him, including Prince Andrew, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, current USA President Donald J. Trump, and former President Bill Clinton, with more possibly coming. These files show connections to famous people and reveal ugly details, including claims that recordings were made. Investigators have been digging into this since his death in 2019. Epstein refused to answer questions in legal settings, claiming it could incriminate him, probably thinking that silence would shield him forever. But he died by suicide in 2019, and his longtime partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, was convicted and jailed 2 years ago. Many of his associates thought the whole thing would fade away. Instead, after years of court battles, more than 150 people have now been publicly named as linked to his trafficking operation. He was incredibly skilled at manipulating not only the young women he targeted, but also the powerful men around him. What he did was a massive, heinous crime that went on unchecked for far too long. Epstein had huge wealth and properties everywhere: New York, Palm Beach, California, Paris, London, and his private island. He used his plane and homes to create a system where girls were always available to him, no matter where he was. He talked about feeling completely free on his island, able to think and do whatever he wanted. The whole scandal might never have come to light without Virginia Giuffre. She accused Epstein, Maxwell, and Prince Andrew of abuse, and her 2015 defamation lawsuit against Maxwell led to many of these unsealed documents, which are mostly sworn statements. Virginia has spoken about how painful it was to return to Epstein's Manhattan mansion years later, describing deep scars hidden behind those walls and saying the place should be torn down and burned because of the terrible memories tied to it. The harm done to her and the other women is hard to put into words. It's changed their lives forever, and it's unfair that it went on without consequences for so long. Journalist Lucia Osborne Crowley, who's followed this case closely, says the new files are hugely important because people swore under oath to these accounts, facing perjury penalties if they lied. That's a big difference from just rumors. She also covered Maxwell's 2022 trial, where victims testified that Maxwell didn't just recruit and groom underage girls. She was in the room during the abuse and took part in it herself. The documents highlight others in Epstein's circle. One of the most explosive parts comes from emails by a victim named Sarah Ransom, who said she saw recordings Epstein made involving Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and Richard Branson. All three have strongly denied it, and Sarah herself has sometimes backed away from the claim before, But recently, she stood by it again, saying recordings existed, that everything was filmed, and that people who know about them are probably scared they'll come out. Many others named in the files have stayed completely silent. These documents list people as potential witnesses who were at places where abuse happened, but most aren't accused of crimes themselves. The real question is what they saw, or why they didn't question why those girls were around in those settings. The files also suggest Epstein's trafficking had a darker purpose, gathering compromising information on influential people for blackmail. Victims said he asked them for details after encounters with famous men, and there's long been suspicion he had cameras everywhere to collect leverage. I first heard Epstein's name through New York social circles in the late 1990s and early 2000s. He was mysterious. Nobody knew where his money came from, and Ghislaine Maxwell was the main link people knew about. In 2002, a journalist named Vicky Ward was assigned by Vanity Fair to profile him and his supposed $500 million fortune. Her editor said they'd been hearing about him for years, with no real answers. The story started as business-related, but turned dark fast. Epstein hosted parties with young women, which didn't seem unusual for a wealthy single man in his 50s at first. Then Vicky spoke to Maria Farmer, who had worked for him. Maria became key to the story. Back in 1996, she was the first person to report Epstein and Maxwell to the FBI. She described being assaulted by both of them in his room, and while it was happening, she was terrified, thinking about her 16-year-old sister being around them alone. That fear was justified. Her younger sister Annie was also abused by them, and both sisters later called it the worst thing that ever happened to them. But the police basically ignored Maria's report. It got filed away and dismissed, leaving her feeling helpless. Maria met Epstein and Maxwell in 1995 as an art student. Epstein hired her to buy art for his New York mansion, and she saw a constant flow of teenage girls coming through. She witnessed Maxwell approaching young girls in parks or near schools, giving them her number, and then those same girls, some even wearing braces, showing up at the house, supposedly for modeling auditions. Maria has said many times that if the FBI had followed up on her 1996 report, so many women's lives would be different today. The regret hurts her deeply, and it's one reason she never had children. She didn't feel the world was safe enough. 6 years later, in 2002, the Farmer sisters spoke to Vicky Ward for the Vanity Fair piece. They were scared of these powerful people, but they hoped the magazine's reach would protect them. Vicky put the allegations to Epstein and Maxwell, and they reacted with fury. Epstein treated it like a twisted game, calling her daily, threatening lawsuits, and even saying he'd have a witch doctor curse her unborn children. He visited Vicky's editor in person, and afterward, the sisters' allegations were removed from the published story. Vicky was devastated. She felt they'd left those women exposed. It showed how much power Epstein had back then, in an era when predators often went unchallenged. That article only scratched the surface. The real horrors were happening behind closed doors in his homes, especially in Palm Beach. Palm Beach was full of wealthy people, including Donald Trump nearby. Epstein's mansion there was where many girls were abused. Estimates say over 100. One victim, Courtney Wild, was 14 when she met him in 2001. She was a straight-A student, played trumpet, led cheerleading. Everything changed after him.
She came from a poor trailer park area and believes he deliberately targeted vulnerable kids like her, using money to make them feel helped when he was really exploiting them. She was brought there by another 14-year-old for a massage that paid $200. She expected just that, not abuse. Inside, it was a setup. They went upstairs to his bedroom where the massage table was. He told them to strip to their underwear. After massaging his back, he flipped over, sent the other girl away, and the sexual abuse started. Courtney walked away feeling filthy, like part of her was gone forever. Virginia's story was similar, but Maxwell recruited her. At 16, working at Mar-a-Lago, Virginia was reading a massage book when Maxwell approached, promising training, travel, and a great opportunity. It sounded perfect. Hours later, she was at Epstein's Palm Beach home. They massaged his back, then he turned over, and she was told to undress and have sex with him while Maxwell participated. Virginia said it hurt most because she expected it from a man, but not from a woman. Maxwell was glamorous, name-dropping celebrities like Bill Clinton and being close to Prince Andrew, who stayed at Epstein's places. Vicky Ward knew that world. When she told Maxwell about the profile, Maxwell cried, probably fearing exposure. Prince Andrew is accused of abusing Virginia when she was 17, at Epstein and Maxwell's direction. She described going to a club with him, then being told in a car to do the same things she did for Epstein. A 2001 photo of them together in Maxwell's apartment resurfaced. Andrew denied remembering it, questioned if it was real, saying it's hard to prove because it's a photo of a photo, but Virginia insists it's authentic, verified, and given to the FBI. She says she was trafficked to him 3 times. The new documents mention Andrew 69 times, and another victim, Johanna Schoberg, swore she was groped by him and saw him with Virginia at Epstein's New York mansion. Lucia Osborne Crowley says this is significant, 2 sworn accounts of illegal acts with minors. She thinks authorities should question him and others further. Andrew settled with Virginia in 2022 for over $15 million before trial, probably thinking it was done. But these files reopen everything. In 2019, Epstein was rearrested on federal sex trafficking charges. He could have faced 45 years. Virginia called it a dream come true after decades of him escaping justice. But he died by suicide a month later, charges dropped, no trial for victims. Maxwell fled but was caught in 2022, convicted on 5 counts, sentenced to 20 years. She's appealing and denies everything, telling her brother she's not the person portrayed. At trial, she showed no real remorse, only saying she felt sorry for the damage Epstein caused. With both gone, it seemed over. But these documents show how much is still unknown. Why did powerful men like Bill Gates and Bill Clinton associate with him? Over 150 names are out there, mostly silent. Lucia points out sworn testimony naming people who could have stopped it but didn't. The ring ran for 2 or 3 decades with almost no interference. The scale is staggering, not just the names, but how many witnesses victims identified. Powerful people have mostly run from questions. Lucia is surprised by the silence. She thinks some should at least explain themselves. Being connected to Epstein now looks terrible, regardless of criminality. We have to hope public pressure finally forces real accountability. Epstein and Maxwell exposed a darkness that's hard to face. From what Lucia knows, there are even more people not on these lists who knew or took part. She hopes more charges come, because the truth is worse than most accept. That's the full story, as I see it.